Hi, you're listening to Everyday Superpower, the place we can learn about body language, non-verbal communication, and essentially read the minds of others through assessing their behaviours and gestures. Keep it nice and simple. No jargon, no nonsense. Let's just get into it, alright? So we've got a nice special edition today. We've got a nice hungover edition, so please be a little patient with me. And without further ado, we're going to get onto it. So click like, click subscribe. During the process of listening, if you want to leave a comment of such, feel free to do so. And let's get on to it. So the question today is, why do men like breasts? Alright? Why do men like breasts? What are the purpose of breasts? And so on and so forth. We'll, try to bounce a few ideas off and see where we can go. So I am not an evolutionary biologist. I don't work in the field. I'm not a scientist of any sort. But I am interested in the human body and, how we signal each other and how we communicate with each other through our form, alright? So take it with a pinch of salt, okay? This isn't my forte, but we have a few ideas to run through, alright? So see if any of them make sense, and potentially you might be able to apply them to your own perspective. So the human breasts in particular, right, are enlarged sweat glands, yeah? Most of the breast consists of fat tissue, yeah, which gives them the shape we love, okay? Most of this tissue, though, is not involved in the actual milk production, so most of the scale of the breast of a woman is to near or no use, alright? Literally speaking. Well, not necessarily literally, because we're going to some concepts, but you know what I mean, as far as the rearing of a child and so forth, which you would assume was the purpose of the breast. Most mammals develop breasts, albeit only temporarily, during the ovulation or the nursing stage of their cycle, right? The purpose is to produce milk. That's the main purpose of the breast, alright, speaking on an animal sort of basis. And once the milk is gone, the breasts disappear. That's on, other creatures. But as far as us human beings, they don't seem to diminish, alright? Breasts form or enlarging during puberty, right? And they stay with us. So we're going to have a look into a concept, right, as to which we can consider the breasts to serve the purpose of sexual signaling, alright? Now, of course we find them sexy, but why? Well, I don't know, I'm not speaking for you, but I definitely don't mind a pair of breasts on a woman, so why do we find them sexy? Why do we find them appealing? Alright? Well, maybe, just maybe, that the breasts may mimic a woman's rear view. Okay? They may mimic the crack of the bum, of the arse, which was UK citizens call us English citizens the crack of the arse, alright? The bum. So we used to walk on all fours, obviously, right? Now, when we started walking upright, there may have been indication needed that the individual whom was walking towards us was female. So we evolved to grow breasts on the fronts of our bodies, okay? To signal a feminine sexual cue. Alright? So I see on social media and so forth, a lot of dispute on why a man can walk around with his top off and a woman can't, and, women saying stop sexualizing breasts and stuff, but maybe, potentially, within our nature, them breasts are there to be sexualized. Alright? Now, the studies that have been done, which implied that it's not necessarily how large the breast is, but more so the cleavage of the breast, which is considered sexual, okay? So that would run into correlation with our concept of it replicating the bum. The crack, alright? Another benefit... Well, actually, no. We'll stick with what we were just talking about, because what we can consider as well is Particular clothing such as low-cut dresses and push-up bras will emphasize the cleavage. Okay? So there's clothes out there in the market which sexualize the woman, and sexualize the woman by emphasizing the cleavage, the push-up, and the accentuation of the crack representing the arse, alright? So of course, you know, it goes without saying, well, why are you going to be interested in the arse? Because it holds the fertile genitals, as to which is a necessity for us to reproduce. Our purpose to be here, to pass on our genes, right? As a man, to pass on our genes. So that's why it's brilliant. That's why the replica on the forefront is brilliant. It's like a 2-for-1 offer, right? Now let's talk about another benefit. So another benefit of having breasts is that it, such as the man when he trains his chest and enlarges his upper body, it decreases the relative size of the waist, okay? A further fertility and health signal. A small waist, broad hips, and potentially an hourglass figure, given that the breasts are used to accentuate that. Alright? Now, let's talk about another concept, okay? So, I've heard people talking about a woman with large breasts may be sexy because it's an advertisement of a good supply of estrogen, i.e. the feminine versus the masculine, and an advertisement of fertility. Okay? Doesn't necessarily cover why a woman would grow breasts in the first place, but as to why men may find, or some particular group of men might find, larger breasts sexier than the small ones. Now, of course, this is an offshoot of the study that was done well, it's not an offshoot, but it's a different theory completely. All right, it's a different theory completely of the idea that a man doesn't care about the scale of the breast. It's more so the cleavage that's created, which is important. So we did a video on legs. Why do men do long legs? Or at least that's a video that'll be coming out in a moment. So we're going to cover them as well. Why does a man love the legs of a woman? And in particular, why do we use supermodels and so forth with these long legs as symbolic of beauty? And something we came across was it's symbolic of a post-pubescent stage. So when a girl goes through puberty, of course her limbs lengthen and she in short term becomes fertile, and we as people who grow up in that environment around other girls who may be doing so, and don't get me wrong, you might go to an all boys school, you might be home tutored, you might not have actually been involved in that, but for the most part we may associate that particular stage of our life, seeing these girls turn into women essentially and grow these bits and take on this upsurge of estrogen. That might be dialed into our brain as why we deem it attractive and sexual, because it's an implication of a woman coming of age and becoming fertile and being able to reproduce. So we could apply this essentially to the growth of the breasts as well. Alright, so as you can hear, most of these theories and most of these concepts, and when it comes to body language and nonverbal communication, it comes up ever so often. The relation between man and woman tends to be based around the fertility of the woman in particular, alright? And what the man can offer on his end in relation, okay? Because to be able to produce children is, you know, biologically the means of luring a man in on a sexual basis, because there's no deeper form of sexual root than procreation. And just one additional point before we sign out is in relation to the concept that a man may potentially like. Well, there's obviously groups of men who prefer large breasts compared to small ones, alright? So these group of individuals in particular, you can consider that the large breasts, which sag more quickly in age, okay, they droop more quickly in age, that limitation may imply that whilst they are large and pert, they are a proof of youth and health and, guess what, fertility, okay? So that's something to consider. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I hope there was some food for thought. Obviously, this may or may not be rooted in complete scientific know-how, but as far as the theory goes, there are a couple of strong arguments there. Alright, a couple of strong concepts. And until we get down to the real nitty-gritty of stuff, I'm just going to offer you some food for thought, alright? So, hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, click like, click subscribe. Feel free to leave a comment if there's any opinions you have. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.